Hey there, and welcome back again to YAS, a stripper podcast. On this podcast, we'll discuss how classifying each other as people and workers is dangerous to society and marginalized groups of people. We'll also talk about the climate in and outside of the strip clubs and all of the amazing things that strippers do. And of course, we'll talk about all of the things in between. I'm your queen, A.M. Davies, and this is YAS, a stripper podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to YAS, a stripper podcast. I'm your host, A.M. Davies, and today our guest is Fox Sinclair. Before we get to Fox, though, and all of her glamour and glory over there, I want to talk to you about something that's on the front of my mind a lot of times as a stripper and even as like a regular person, right? So my name is A.M., and so many people think that that's some sort of a fake name. Something that happens a lot in the stripper world, and especially when you have a unique name like mine, is the first thing people ask you is, what's your real name, or what do your parents call you? And I find this to be one of the most offensive things that you can say to a person when they introduce you to their name. As a stripper, I call myself AM, and the first question was, what's your real name? And I absolutely abhorred this question. I would use a fake real name, which is Nikki. Or Nicole, actually, is my fake real name. And then I would just end the conversation there. And then they would think that my real name was Nicole, and then they would be happy because they felt special. And then even as a regular person, when I'm walking around and I meet people and I say that my name is AM, like the comments that I get, and literally people have said to me, that's not your real name. Who fucking cares what my real name is? If I'm going to give you my name, that's the name I want you to call me, and that's the end of it. And anything else behind that is none of anybody else's business. And so that's just a little tip from me to you. When you hear like a unique, different type of name, just take that at face value. That's the name that people want you to call them. So just call them what they're telling you they want to be called. And that brings us to our next guest, who's Fox Sinclair. And Fox, what is the response that people give you when you say, hi, I'm Fox? What's the number one most typical response you get?
Well, if it's somebody who wants to, like, challenge that, most people are like, hey, Fox, nice to meet you. But in the case that they're not with that name, they're like, oh, what's your real name? It's a real kind of like pouty thing to me, like, oh, what's your real name? And I'm like, why are you talking to me like that?
Right.
As if I'm someone that you know that you can be mad at.
Right.
That's the thing that is like weird, is when you're a stranger and already we're like getting in a fight. They're just like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, really. And like you said, it's like, well, that's, okay, well, like, what do you want to know, like, personal information about my history and my background? I mean, it just kind of matters the way that people approach it. But I do meet a lot of wolves. I love it when I go, yeah, they're like, your name's Fox? And I'm like, yeah, my name's Fox. They go, okay, well, I'm Wolf. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so funny. I've met like so
many of you.
It's like, y'all should really start a club.
Yeah, I get PM. Oh, my name is PM. And then I go, like, and my response is, wow, I've met so many of you. And then they feel stupid because they're like, oh, I'm not original. It's like, you're not.
It's so funny that they forget that, like, we do this and have this conversation all the time.
All the time. It's
so
annoying.
Like, your witty kind of go out flirtation, just like, it doesn't work. We've seen it so much.
So many times, yeah. If I had a dime,
However, one time I did actually meet someone named Wolf at another bar, just outside. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm Wolf. And I was like, yeah, okay. Being such a bitch about it. And I was just like, okay, dude, like, I get it. It's funny. I meet so many of you. And then he's like, no, really. And I like look at his Instagram and it's like, Wolf, whatever. I was like, oh
shit. That reminds me of the time I was at one of my favorite bars in the whole world, Lucky 13 Saloon in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. And there was this lead singer of this really super crazy heavy metal band. And he had really long black hair and he was tall and he had a really deep voice like this. And then he really wanted to talk to me and introduce, and he says, what's your name? And I said, I'm AM. And I go, what's your name? And he leans down and puts his mouth really close to my ear and he goes, the Count. And I was like, nice to meet you, the Count.
I love that.
But I was confronted with a situation where I'm like, come on, man. the Count. And of course, I just accepted the name that he wanted to be called. So his name was the Count. I met him. Yeah. So,
but that is an interesting thing, like the whole kind of naming, and at what point you feel the, you know, agency to be able to challenge someone on what they're presenting with you. You know, if someone was maybe, I don't know, in more of a situation of like a drag, you know, in drag, or transitioning, and, you know, gender fluid, or I don't know, or more of a performance in the sense that, like, you know, it's a bigger stage, bigger venue.
Yeah.
You know, why do people feel the need, you know, because I'm a cute gal, and I feel like it's kind of a way to be like, no, let's see the cute, sweet, childish version of you. I don't know. I mean, it's like, what is that in them that makes them feel that they would question someone that they meet at a club versus somebody who's offering them a name in any other circumstance?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so I have a lot of time to think about this. I've been thinking about this for years. I think that people just feel special knowing like the true version of you, like the real true version, as if your real name is a reflection of the true version of who you are.
I get that.
But I don't think, like, my full name, Anne-Marie, which I love and a lot of people call me, I don't feel like my real name is actually a true reflection of who I am. Like, if you have my full name, Anne-Marie, you still don't know jack shit about me, bro.
Right.
You're not getting any big secret or, like, unlocking any, you know. So.
That's true.
Yeah. So I disagree with. I think that if someone gives you a name, you just fucking accept that name. So, and that is, I love your name, Fox. I love you. You're amazing. Fox is one of my dearest, best of all time, amazing friends. And Fox, you are on YAS, a Stripper podcast. So that means you're either a stripper or you're a stripper ally. So, and I already know. Can't you tell?
I'm wearing my sparkle top.
She is definitely a stripper. Fox, tell us the first time you realized you wanted to be a pole dancer. Can you tell that story?
Yes, I would love to, Anne-Marie. I grew up in Louisiana. I grew up in Baton Rouge, and we would go to New Orleans, like, you know, I would go with my mom.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I went for my 13th birthday with my gal pals and my cousin. And, you know, when you're walking down Bourbon Street, it was very much like I just remember seeing silhouettes of women spinning around on a pole.
Yeah.
And I can't, you know, I've created that recollection, and maybe it was an actual woman or just like a image of it. But then on the trolleys going up and down town, it was so much fun to hold on to the pole and just like let it swing you around.
Yeah.
And I have this very distinct memory. I was with my mom, and I swung around on the pole on the trolley, and I go, Mom, I want to be a pole dancer when I grow up. And I was like, I think I don't know, maybe I was 10 years old, and the whole trolley just kind of gives me a big looks over, and like, you know, I didn't know anything was bad.
Sure.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so I went to college for dance. I grew up dancing. I did contemporary, modern, hip hop, ballet, and so my at college, it was a very like contemporary performance art kind of situation. And then I had always loved the grittiness of being a stripper, but I think growing up in New Orleans, like seeing that scene, it just wasn't really super healthy. A lot of the women weren't taking care of themselves, and I mean, I'm guilty of being a customer that goes up in the front and would give my friend a lap dance because I was there for myself and not to pay attention to them.
Oh, wait. So you would go into the club with friends and you would give your friend a lap dance in the club where the strippers were working? Yeah, I was a terrible strip club customer. Okay.
Like,
got it.
If you know, 19-year-old Fox came into my club, this Fox would have a lot to say.
Yeah.
I'd be like, honey, you don't work here. Get
right,
the fuck out.
Right. Did you experience, like, did any of the dancers say anything to you or come up to you and express anything?
No, they were so used to it. They're so used to it.
Yeah. Well, I guess New Orleans is a bit different, right? It's like a little bit more, like more goes, like anything goes because of the vibe overall in the
Yeah, I
city.
mean, it's Bourbon Street. It's like a bunch of drunk, fratty people just walking down with the goal of getting super pissed and, meaning drunk.
Drunk, yeah.
And, yeah, just kind of like strolling in and out very unaware. I mean, you know, we're fortunate. I work at Jumbo's and have only ever worked at Jumbo's as a dancer because to continue with that is, you know, I took a class from Duchess in New Orleans.
Okay.
And I just loved it so much, but I was like, I wish I could, you know, kind of express myself in this way, but I just don't really want to be in the culture of feeling demeaned.
Interesting.
In the way that I had seen that in, you know, growing up. Or,
right.
You know, I guess as a young adult in New Orleans, and just I didn't see the side of the coin that could be super empowering until I walked into Jumbo's Clown Room.
Okay.
And I just had an overwhelming sense of the power of the women in there.
Yeah.
And immediately was like, yep, I'm going to work here.
Okay.
And so I kind of just snuck my way over to being like a customer, just figuring out, you know, starting to talk to the girls. And then
so it's interesting that you talk about that because, you know, I worked at a ton of different clubs besides just Jumbo's Clown Room, and I've seen women being empowered and learning from them and from their grace and their strength, even in the nude clubs and in the topless clubs in Vegas. And so have you found that as you like sort of matured, you have seen that in other types of places?
100%.
Okay.
I mean, especially now that I am in the community, and, you know, it certainly took me like a while to get out of the ignorance. I just didn't know what this community was because as strippers, you know, it's very, especially growing up in the South, it's very Christian, it's very conservative. Like, we just kind of don't talk about sex. We don't talk about, you know, it was a woman, if she was a stripper, it was just like, oh God, like we just didn't even have that conversation.
Like she's evil or bad or seriously. Scary.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just a lot of, like, I grew up super Christian, and, you know, I just remember.
Yeah, you've told me stories where you're so Christian that you would often be the first one to stand up in the pews with your arms up, waving back and forth with your eyes closed and feeling the rays of God shine down on you.
Totally. I mean, I still feel that, but it's like, I think it's
now it's more of a power pose.
Yeah, it's a power pose.
Yeah.
And, you know, me like speaking in tongues is more just me being so excited.
Yeah.
Shake a lot.
Yeah. You have a lot of energy.
It's all the same thing. I mean, it's all an element of just feeling connected to something that's much bigger than yourself, and feeling like I can change the world.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I love the fact that I was super Christian, even though there was a period where I'm like, that's really weird, because, like, if you knew me now.
Yeah. For those of you who can't see, Fox's legs are up in the air and she's shaking them from side to side, and they're also spread nice and wide as well.
I have on business pants.
So she has on business pants, so it's not as slutty.
Party on the top, business on the bottom.
Exactly. Oh, geez.
So much.
I know. So something I want to make sure everyone understands is you are a musician. And to me, you're not just any musician, because you write your own music, you produce your own music, you literally write the sounds of your own music, you direct and produce your own music videos, you produce your own shows. Like, you are another one-woman show. We just had one last week. So you are another one-woman show. So can you just give us a little background and insight on what that life is like for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have been singing, making music. Shit, man, I just need to express myself in all the ways possible. And I'm moody and I need to talk about it. And I think music has always been a way for me to, like, you know, release the things that I want to say, in the same way that dancing is a way to release some energy. It's all just a release of feelings and tension, and exploring new ways to feel.